Today's lesson, we're going to start by talking about different degree of a polynomial and what that looks like. So we're going to talk about what does an x squared look like, what does x cubed look like, what is x to the fourth, etc. and on. But we actually already know what x squared looks like, okay? So along with whatever we're looking at the graph, we're also going to find what are called the zeros. Someone remind me what it means with a zero. What do the zeros mean?
That's the axis, like the x-axis.
Where it's crossing the x-axis, right? Like the x-intercepts, that's what we've talked about before. We're going to tell where the function is increasing and where the function is decreasing. And that's something that we haven't talked about yet. So that's going to be new, and that's where the highlighters are going to come into play. Okay? So the first thing I'd like you to draw on example 1, this is an x and a y axis. This is our starting point right here, which is going to be our 0. Okay? So we're not looking at either negative quadrant. We're looking at just the positive values. Okay? And so I want you to draw an upside down parabola. We're going to mark this 10, and we're going to mark right here in the middle a 5. So we're going to say that this graph stretches from 0 to 10. Okay? So when we talk about increasing, think about being on a roller coaster. If you're on a roller coaster going up, so this is where you would use your highlighter, one color of your highlighter. I am increasing from 0 to 5. Do you guys agree that that's where our function is going up? We're increasing from 0 to 5. Up there by Tish, if you'd like to. So if we're increasing from 0 to 5, what do you think is happening from 5 to 10? Decreasing, right? So this is where you would switch highlighters with your friend, your neighbor. Okay, we are decreasing from 5 to 10. Notice we're using the x-axis to mark where it's increasing or decreasing, right? I didn't talk about anything up on the y-axis, right? If that was like an 8, I didn't reference that at all. I'm only looking at the x-axis. Okay, the other thing we're going to put on this graph, and you can write it underneath your increasing and decreasing, I just didn't move my diagram up far enough, is where are the zeros of the graph? So where are the zeros of the graph? Anthony, what is one place where the graph is touching the x-axis? At the 0, right? So one of the zeros, or one of the answers or solutions, is the point 0, 0. Colt, where's the other place that it's crossing the x-axis?
10, 0.
At 10, 0. We're going to use our calculator to help us find these zeros in just a few minutes, okay? Just a few minutes. So this is a very basic example. All right, so let's look at another example. So I want you to try your best to graph the way that I am graphing. Okay, so we're going to go on to example 2. Try to make your graph look something like this. We're going to draw dots here at 0, right kind of here in the middle where it starts to decrease, and then right here. Okay, so draw those points there. We're going to call this one 0. That's my dotted line there that I'm shading. This is the point 2. We'll call this one 4. So with your increasing highlighter, we are increasing on this part of the graph. Are we increasing anywhere else on this graph?
From 4 up.
From 4 on up, right? Okay, so let's write that. We started increasing from 0, and where did it stop increasing?
2.
At 2. You guys see that? From 0 to 2. In this, I don't want you to color your graph, but this is where I was increasing. So from 0 to 2, I was increasing. And then also again at 4 and on, I started increasing. Where am I going off to with 4? Good. Any idea what I should put in the middle? The U. Do you guys remember that? We called it a union. That U thing without a tail, the horseshoe thing, between 0, 2, and 4 to infinity. Okay, now we want to know where we are decreasing. So we're decreasing from here to here in this section. If it would help you to color in like this, that's fine. To know where you're going on the x-axis. So where are we decreasing?
Whoa.
Good, from 2 to 4. Excellent. Now, I want you to look up here at something. Look at where my increasing and decreasing, where I wrote that out. Would you agree that I actually am going to spread from 0 all the way to infinity with what I have written right here? Because this 2 to 4 can cut right up in here, and then that's going to spread the whole 0 to infinity. You don't need to write that down. I just want you to notice that. The increasing stopped at 2, and I picked it up at 2. Stopped at 4, and I picked it up at 4. Do you guys see how that happens? That should always happen. Wherever you start, wherever you stop should be where you start on the next one. Okay, so I don't want you to draw that because that might look a little hectic on your paper. Let's find out where the zeros are. Where are the zeros of this graph? Where's the only place that it's touching the x-axis?
0, 0.
At 0, 0. So this one only has one, what we call real 0. All right, any questions on example 2?
Why did you say it only has 0, 0?
Because that's where it's crossing the x-axis. Or the x-axis. So if you look here at my graph up there, that's the only point where it's actually going to cross that x-axis. Okay? All right, so let's look now at example 3. Okay, so this is what example 3 should look like. We're going to make it kind of look like a W. Okay, so we're going to kind of make it look like a W. And then we're going to make some points. At the peaks and valleys is where you make your points. We're going to call this one right here -3. Two and 5. So the first thing I'm going to look for is increasing, and I know that I'm increasing from here to here. And I'm increasing over here from here to here. So if you need to, on your x-axis, you can shade in from where it's increasing, because we always look at our x-axis to determine the numbers. So I am increasing, remember, think about going up a roller coaster, from -3 to 2. Do you guys agree with that? From -3 to 2, I'm increasing. And then I started increasing again at 5 and go off to where, Kyle? Excellent. 5 goes off to infinity this direction. What goes in the middle? The u. All right, so now let's talk about decreasing. I'm decreasing from here to here, which is this section of my x-axis, and from here to here. Just stick with me if you're not getting it. We're going to practice this some more. On my x-axis, what is way out this direction? Right, so I am decreasing from negative infinity, and then I went all the way and stopped at where? Good, negative 3. So I go from negative infinity to negative 3. And then where's my other blue section? From 2 to 5. You guys see that? From 2 to 5? All right, let's look down to make sure we caught everything. So if I start on my decreasing, I went from negative infinity to negative 3, and then I picked up negative 3 right here. You don't need to, I want you just to watch at my screen. And then I went from negative 3 to 2, and then I stopped at 2, picked right back up at 2. And I went from 2 to 5, and then I stopped at 5, picked right back up at 5. Do you guys see how that bounces back and forth? That should happen every time. You shouldn't stop at 1 and pick back up at 4. Okay? So now, where are these zeros? That's the question next, is to find out where are the zeros.
Like it's in the middle.
Yeah, it looks like it's in the middle, right? So approximately here, we could call that, what do you want to call that? Negative 4 maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a 0 at negative 4. Then right here in the middle, where's this point? Right, this one right here is 0, 0. Then I also crossed at here. What do we want to call this one? What? 3. Okay. Now on your calculator, you'll actually get to see what it is. Okay. And then don't we have one more out here?
5.
So 5 was already used. You can kind of see it. 5 was already used here.
6.
So okay, 6 sounds good. Now, I want you to understand something. Your increasing and decreasing may look different than your neighbor. Because you may look at your calculator and say that it stopped increasing at 1.5, and your neighbor may say that it stopped increasing at 2. As long as your graph on your paper matches your increasing and decreasing, that's what I look for. Not what your neighbor said, because these numbers are going to be sometimes hard to find on your calculator, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. Okay? But your paper should match your increasing and decreasing, not your neighbor's. The thing that should match is the zeros. That's not negotiable because of the way we're going to find them. So let's do one more quick example of increasing and decreasing. I want you to try to see if you can do this one on your own. Okay, so this is what it should look like. All right, so see what you can do with increasing and decreasing on your own paper.
You said the numbers don't matter.
Hmm?
You said the numbers don't matter.
I'm giving them to you here, so yes, they do matter here. I'll show you on the example we're getting ready to do. Okay, check your increasing. We should be increasing from negative infinity to negative 3 and from negative 1 to 1. You should be decreasing from negative 3 to negative 1 and from 1 to infinity. Kaylin, name one of my zeros. What's one of the zeros? Remember, that's where it's crossing the x-axis. So what's one of the points? So are you talking about this one over here? 3, 0. Josh, what's the other one? Perfect. Negative 5, 0. That's where it's crossing the x-axis. Okay, now that we kind of have the hang of it, we're going to try example 5 in our graphing calculators. Now, I need you to not go ahead, and I need you to stay with me. The first thing that we're going to do in our calculator is to go to our y equals and put in the correct equation. So look at example 5. You've been given an equation now. Okay, so we're going to use our graphing calculator. Remember, you're going to go to your y equals in the top corner. Clear out everything that was in there. Now, how do we get x to the cube? So you're going to hit your x button, which is next to the green one. And then this is a caret button that's above the division sign. Do you guys see where my mouse is? That's called a caret button. 3. Now, if yours looks like an exponent mode, you need to pause for just a minute and listen to this instruction. Raise your hand if yours looks like an exponent, not just the arrow. Okay, if yours looks like the exponent, that means you need to arrow over to get out of exponent mode. So you're going to have to hit the right arrow, and that will drop you out of exponent mode. Otherwise, you're going to put the entire thing in as an exponent, and it's going to give you the wrong answer. Okay, so arrow over to get out of exponent mode, then minus 4x squared plus 3. So x raised to the third power minus 4x raised to the second power plus 3. Okay, then hit graph. Please raise your hand if your graph does not look like mine. Well, okay, so check with Tracy beside you. Yours does not look like mine? So go back to your y equals. Don't start drawing anything on your paper yet. Anybody else? Okay, you should not be trying to plot your graph yet. I've said that 3 times now. Because you don't know my instructions that are coming next to it. Anybody else? Okay, the first thing we're going to do is find the zeros. So in our notes, that was like the last thing we did. So we're going to first, because here's the thing, guys. If you can find out where these points are on your calculator, it's going to make you the graphing much easier. Okay? So what we're going to do, I feel like I have to scream. Okay, so what we're going to do is I need you to look up here at my screen first, otherwise this is going to be tricky. We're going to choose a point on this side and a point on this side, and then we're going to guess what this point is. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. Then we're going to move to the next one. And we're going to choose a point on this side and a point under it, and we're going to guess. And then we're going to go again and choose a point on this side and on this side, and then we're going to guess. All right, so this is kind of like what we did with the intersection piece, except now we're going to be guessing the zero. Well, not guessing the zeros, but we're going to be figuring the zeros. Okay, so on your calculator, if you go to Math, Num, oh, just kidding. Oh, where did my calculator go? Okay, go back to your graph, look at it. Why does mine keep just, can you see it on yours? You can see it up there, okay. Second, calculate. And which one do you think we're going to use? The zero, right? So second, calculate, and then we're going to go hit number 2, or you can arrow down and get number 2, enter. Okay, yeah, so second, so trace is second calculate. So now you should see a blinky thing, a blinky dot, and it should say left bound question mark. Okay, so you're going to go, listen, underneath is left of it. And this is why. Hey, grab your calculator. Let me explain something to you. If I were to straighten this graph out, okay, this is the left side, this is the right side, right? If I was to straighten this graph out, that would be the left side and the right side. So that's all you kind of have to think about when we're talking about left side, right side. What happens when I get to this point, though? What's the left side?
The up part.
Up here, right? And this is the right side. So you're going to have to switch that a little bit if you were to flatten the graph out. Okay, so you're going to hit left side and push enter. Find a point that's below it and a point that's above it. If you are stuck, you need to be asking a neighbor beside you. Scoot over and work with someone beside you. Yep, left bound.
Then hit enter.
Yep, and you're using your left and right arrows, not your up and down arrows, but your left and right arrows. Right bound, and then it says guess, you'll push enter again. You should be getting negative 0.79. If you didn't, check with your neighbor, someone who did. Get them both? Okay.
Did you get them? So you need to hit enter
Alright, so
again.
I need you guys to follow along with me. Okay, so you're going to go down to your second calculate. Number 2 is the 0, so arrow down to number 2. Okay? And then you're going to go, so they knock that in. Now we need, see all this point right here, we're trying to find that point where it crosses the x-axis. So it says left bound, which means we need to arrow left down below it. So then arrow down below it. Left, down below. Okay, now you have to enter. That's going to say right down. Right down means above it.
To the left. the right up here. Or no, yes. Enter, then asterisk, yes. Hit enter again. You have to select the left point.
Oh, so you have to go like down and then go like right up.
Between this point here, yeah, when they cross the x-axis, you have to go left and right. Hit, enter, and again.
And then when it says yes.
Okay, if you already have 0.790, then you need to go find the other one.
Okay. Do we write them down?
Yes, you should be writing down negative 0.79. So you just have to go across. Hey, Josh. Okay, so you go left down. We're going to go above it. Enter again. That's your first one. So put a 0 down. That's a 0.790. That's not increasing to decreasing, that's just a 0 value. So then you're going to go back to second calc.
Hey, I got it.
Second calc. Go back and get your 0 again. Okay, and now you're going to do left bound, right bound for that point that's in the middle. Okay, so you're going to do left bound. Can you follow along?
This. Yeah, right.
And we're going to try to get this point, so we have to arrow, you have to use your left. Yep. We're going to go above it first, because that's really the left side. So arrow.
For the third one? I got X.
Mine told me to quit taking. I was like, go take a nap.
Yeah, below it. Now, guess it. Excellent. Okay, I'll help you. Yep, yes. 1, 0. Good. Should you be getting 1, 0 for your second one?
Mine was why people told me to quit.
Do a second. Count again. Don't round.
I got the
Yes.
one.
I don't know why mine. Okay, so you said. Right, so
Did you get I guess?
this point.
Huh.
Check for this one.
Shake this one and then go down.
Yeah, because this goes this for the so we calculate this.
Okay, just a second.
Because zeros is.
Okay, once you have your 3 zeros and you've checked with your neighbor.
Last one is 2.
It's like almost 4.
Okay, so we found our zeros.
She needs her calculator like played with her.
Okay, just a second. 1, 0. 3.790, which is here,
No, we have to.
and negative 0.790.
Let's try our best because this one. So draw the line. Pass.
Okay, now that we've done that, now we're going to draw increasing and decreasing, right? This is kind of what our graph looks like on the calculator.
That's right.
That's really hard to do, so that's our best shot.
She said about that.
Yep. Okay, so I need to bring mine down a little bit more.
What are you doing now?
So now we're going to sketch the calculator, or I'm sorry, we're going to sketch the graph. So really it comes down pretty low, right? We're going to do our best here to sketch. Now I want you to do the increasing and decreasing to the best of your ability.
What?
Do the once you've plotted your points.
Yeah.
Did you already win?
At least you understand this, so you already explained stuff.
Just need to practice this.
So are we plotting the points now?
So we plotted those 3 points already. And now we're going to do increasing and decreasing. Now, this is where yours might differ from your neighbor. So I'm going to say I'm increasing from negative infinity to, in my mind, this looks about 1/2. Where does it look like it stops increasing for you? At 0?
0.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and say 0. My graph might be off a little bit. And then what?
We're all gonna write that.
Yeah, because I'm now looking at the graph next to me. And then we started increasing again approximately, on my graph that I drew, it looks to be about 2.5. What about your graph?
I just put 2.
2.
2? Okay. So again, it could be up to you to decide where it stops increasing or starts again, okay, based on what you think the graph looks like, because these are going to be really small numbers.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Right, so we could argue that's at 1.5 or it's at 2. As long as your graph matches your increasing and decreasing, that's what I'm going to be concerned with. So then, according to what I drew up here and what we wrote, we should be, look up here for just a second. These are the two numbers that I stopped and started with, right? So that means that's where I should be decreasing from 0 to 2. Right, so we need to make sure we start where we stopped at. So if I stop at 0, that means I'm going to pick it up at 0. Okay, on example 6, make sure that you are carefully putting it in to your calculator. Okay, so we're putting example 6 into our calculator. We just started.
Yeah.
We're just putting number 6 in our calculator.
Someone down with 5.
Yep. Minus 7x. Minus 1. Your graph kind of looks like a W. How many times is this graph crossing the x-axis? Twice, right? So there are 2 0 values that you need to find. Okay, so it's crossing 2 different times. So remember, we go to second calc, option number 2. The first place it's crossing is right there in the middle, so we're going to go above it, hit enter, go below it, hit enter, then we're going to guess. I'm getting the point negative 0.147. Is anyone else getting the same thing? Okay, so we know that that's one of our 0 values. Negative 0.147. Please at least give me 2 decimal values, if not 3. I do not want just negative 0.1. So I know that my zeros, negative 0.147, comma 0. And then I have another 0 value that I have to find. So again, we go to second calculator, number 2. Now we're going to go below it, and then above it. I'm getting 1.43, comma 0. Anybody else get 1.43? A few of you. Rely on your neighbors if you need help with this, right? Because some of you are really getting this. And others of you are struggling to put it in your calculator, and that's okay. That's why we have each other. So the first thing to graph on your graph would be the zeros.
You just have 2 points. This line just goes twice.
And they're going to very carefully sketch
This one is this one.
our graph.
So we have to calculate this one.
This one.
Just very carefully do your best. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's why we call it a sketch. That's why you're using a pencil. Once you have sketched your points in your graph, then you're going to do your increasing and decreasing. Now this is where your answers may differ from your neighbor, and that's okay.
Yeah. Tomorrow, 1:30. She may go on the second period. That might be better for you to meeting during second period.
Do you have a second period?
No.
Okay, that'll, yeah.
So this is where your graph may differ. So I would say my graph maybe is increasing from -2 to -1. Yours might look different depending on what you see on your calculator.
Then we write ours down and yours.
You write what you have on your paper. So what looks like is happening in your graph. And then I would say it's increasing from 1 to infinity.
So the line going from infinity going down, that would be decreasing, right?
Over here, this blue line,
Yeah.
right here.
That would be decreasing, right?
Yes, so that's coming from -infinity to about -2. I need to move this a little more. There you go.
Is it lesson in Goodwill coming for Excel?
Okay, and then we're also increasing from -1 to 1. I'm sorry, decreasing from -1 to 1. So again, the increasing and decreasing is going to vary depending on what you see in your calculator. What should not vary is the zeros, because we're actually calculating that in our calculator. Okay, does anyone have any questions about this so far? Someone asked a question, how are we supposed to do this on our own if we don't have a graphing calculator? You can't. So you need to use your time in class today wisely to get that finished. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 25 minutes to work on it.